Okay, welcome everybody. So this video is going to teach you how to make some AI related images. So before we go into this, I hope you spend a little time giving this a read, and it goes on to explain how in fact AI will generate its images, the source. Because there is a bit of controversy regarding the imagery being the way it's made. You see here, it's basically what you see here. It tells you artists weren't compensated. So just be aware of that. I think it's good to just not think that it is not tied in any way to something that somebody made. Basically, all the images that you can generate are influenced by all the information that's out there on the web. So this video isn't so much about lecturing you on all of this, but I hope you are curious enough that you give this a quick read, and I think then you will be able to proceed and use it with that in mind, at the very least, and it might influence some of your decisions. That said, this is a reality, and it is something that people who use Photoshop, Illustrator, other software have to deal with as it is becoming more and more prevalent. It's more or less being put in our faces, right? You know, there are these tools that just invite you to try it out, but I do think it's smart to know the origins of where this information comes from. And then it might get you to decide how it is you want to proceed. Okay, lecture's over. Let's get into what this particular lesson's about, and that is generating some images with AI in light of that backdrop. And I want to draw attention, I keep going back to the Canvas page, because you might notice, here we are, we're week 13, and if you're looking at this at another class, maybe it isn't week 13, but the day of this recording, it is. So you might notice that each week has been divided into these little rectangles with info that's pertinent to the week, and there is a wallpaper of sorts, right? Each week has a different one, and I'm sure this is pretty obvious. You can see that each one is a little different. I want to show you how I produce these little patterns. And I did use some AI in Photoshop. Okay, so let's go to it and I'll show you how it's done. So let's go here. Okay, so here it is, the latest one that was just produced. So suppose you too wanted to make your own. I'm going to show you how it can be done. So if I go to, let's just start it from scratch. I'm going to say File, New. And I think giving yourself a square is good. Resolution doesn't have to be super intense or high. 72 can work, and we'll just say Create. Okay, so you get what you get here. So the background is locked. So I'm going to double click this. Do that. Okay. Next thing is I like to do this, make another layer. Gives me more flexibility. And then take note, just pay attention to this. Subject, select subject, remove background, adjust colors. Here's what this shows you down here. By the way, yes. Contextual taskbar is what we're looking at there. So if you don't have that, make sure you turn this on. Okay, because you need that. Next, I'm going to choose Select All. You get the marching ants. Now, look what happened. It changed. It's saying Generative Fill. Yes, Generative Fill. So that's what we've got to use. Okay, so watch. I'm going to click this, and here you get to type your prompt. So some of the combinations that I've been putting together, I always start it with create a seamlessly tiled image of, let's just make something kind of weird. I don't know. Birds, starfish, and gears. Let's just see what it does. Hit return, and it's generating something. And let's find out. So we wait. You can see it's using Firefly Image 3. You can move a generative layer. And okay, all right. I didn't get a chance to see that. Now, let's take a look at what was produced. Wow. So we've got starfish. And I asked for birds, right? So this is something that's kind of bird-like. And gears. It's interesting because this looks a little bit like a ship, steering wheel, essentially, but it's not what it is. So it's like the starfish, and that gives it sort of a nautical theme. But I'm being distracted by the visuals. Anyway, I am now going to zoom out. So we got a look, and that may or may not be perfect for what you want to do. But notice this. You've got 1 through 3 here, so you have other choices you could choose from. Ooh, look at this one. Okay, looks like a pigeon, or yeah, sort of, with banged up legs. And then finally, we've got this one here. Aha. My point is that I could tile these, and you can see how it went ahead and it produced a seamlessly tiled image. If you inspect these carefully, you're going to notice that it struggled a tiny bit. Like, again, starfish. Look at this poor guy. Gears. I mean, it's less than perfect. So just be aware of that when you use AI to generate images. It's got some issues. You've heard about how it generates very poorly fingers on hands. It will oftentimes make more than the correct amount. So okay, there's that. So that's one method. You could use generative fills. And you saw how I did it just now. I'm going to show you this other one. I'm going to call open, let's see. I'm going to say file open, and I want to go get an image that I have right here. Okay. And we've got this. All right, nice beach scene. So here's another way you could use this feature. You could take the lasso tool, in this case, and section off a part in advance. You could say all of this part here is going to be used to generate something. It doesn't have to be with the lasso tool. I could have used the marquee tool and made a perfect rectangle or whatever. But again, what you want to pay attention to is this generative fill section. Click this, and here if I typed in, let's say, beached whale. I did this example in class. In case you missed it, that's a chance to here's a chance to see it done again. So here, beached whale, hit return. Let's see what it generates. So you know what it's doing is it's composing an image based off all the data that it studied, essentially, and made a connection between the patterns that it could find between the words and the images that it studied, basically. So here's candidate number 1. Now I purposely included the water because it is factoring in elements. So here you see the tail is sort of submerged. Okay, let's take a look. Another choice. Okay, and then finally this one. So, these could be passable. This could work. The other thing you should know of is what it's actually doing. So if we hide the background layer, that's what it produced. You can see it worked within my selection. Let's again inspect these. Yep, each one of these, it took advantage of the full area. It didn't ignore it. So it's including the shadows, the beach, the water, obviously. Okay, let me turn this back on. You could hide this. That's the original. There's the addition. You can see, look at the shadow on the tree. It really modified that quite a lot. But if you saw this for the first time, you would think, hey, that's very, very passable. Okay, so the other thing you should know is you can tell just by looking at this that this is actually done with a mask, right? So if you wanted this to be done for real, in other words, if you wanted to edit this further, or I guess simply put, if I wanted to make this a destructive edit, I could go to the mask layer, hold down the control key, and I could choose apply layer mask. Now that's not available, and I'm a little surprised at that. Why is that? Oh, I turned that off. Not entirely certain what I did. All right, well, let's just go back. There it is. I turned off the visibility somehow. But I do want to get this to work, so let me check. Apply layer mask. Maybe it's this one here. No. If I choose delete layer mask, oh, that's what it was. So the mask is gone, and it's still, okay, so you use delete layer mask. That's not lined up with my memory of how it worked, but there it is. It's recorded. That is how it works. All right, the other thing to be aware of is if you wanted even more flexibility, because I believe if I tried to, see what it did? It got rid of my form-fitting selection, or not form-fitting, but the selection I made. It just turned it into a rectangle. I think that, actually, let's turn this back on. I think that if I tried to do some editing on this, it's not going to let me. So probably what has to happen, let's turn this back on, is if you're thinking, oh, he needs to rasterize this, you would be correct. I bet that's what's going to be the case. So go to Layer, Rasterize, Generative. Yep, that's it. And now, there it is. Now you could, let's use the spot healing brush tool, or I don't know. At the very least, let's just do a simple erase like I'm doing here. Okay, so there you have just some stuff you might need to know if you said, hey, actually, I don't want this. I want the original. That's a good thought. You might say, I want the original shadow, for instance. So you could go ahead and remove that, put this back, and there you have it. I'd have to touch that up, but you get the idea. Okay, so there you have two methods for using generative fills, some AI, and I will see you in class. All right, take care. Bye-bye.